All right. So today, I just want to do a quick response to our podcast from last week.
You don't just want to do one.
What?
You don't just want to do one.
Okay.
You want to do one.
So today we're going to do a couple things. We're going to talk about the one of the hot topics right now is the 4-day work week. And a lot of people are proposing that we go to that. Definitely want to touch on that. I also want to touch on our podcast last week. I got a few responses. I don't know if you had anybody reach out to you, but
hold on a minute. We have to do two different ones. We're not going to do the one and the same.
No, we're just going to touch on that podcast.
You just want to touch it? I think we should do like a 10-minute thing on that.
We don't have time now.
Yeah, we do. How long do you think this is going to take? It should only really be 10 minutes anyways. Okay, fuck.
All right, so let's touch on our podcast from last week. I got a few responses regarding Dave Ramsey and what I think is bad advice. You kind of played the devil's advocate. I understand why, but I actually got a few people reach out to me this week that were kind of saying the same thing that you were saying, that it's not really that bad advice. It's good advice for the average person, or it's good advice for people that just want to retire comfortably. Mm-hmm. And I want to stand up here and defend my position that bad advice is still bad advice. Like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, the advice that keeps you in the middle class and keeps you essentially broke, owning no assets, and able to travel once or twice a year is still bad advice. So a couple of things that people had reached out to me about was basically saying just that. Actually, I'll basically read the last paragraph here of the response I got. But I
never get this shit. I never get people trying to...
Probably because you're so abrasive, maybe?
Maybe.
So, I mean, the last part of it was keep in mind his advice is mainly towards people that are already in debt. His advice is great for average people who want to retire comfortably with a paid-for house and a fat retirement account and mutual funds. Not super exciting, but safe plays. So a couple things I want to touch on there. Why do people think that low returns are safe? Like, why do people why is that associated with safety? You know, like, give me your thoughts on that.
Because the least risky, you know, if you want to call it investments, are, you know, do provide the lowest.
So they tell you, but like when you think about it, if you're returning like a lot of these mutual funds return 3 to 4% a year.
Yeah.
And
I actually don't think that they're the safest.
That's what I'm saying.
But
like
the banks would have you believe that.
They're safe because you're unlikely to lose money on paper, but in reality, like, you're making such small returns that you're barely keeping up with inflation, right? Yeah. After your fees and the rate of inflation, like you're not getting ahead at all.
No.
So somehow this belief has come into play that these low risk mutual funds are safe and an investment like it's more safe than an investment property. And I'm like, how can that be possible when you can look over 100-year history and look at your total return on a real estate investment property? It's with principal pay down, cash flow, and appreciation, you're going to be way higher than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. Like, you're going to be in double digits easily over 100 years, right? Like, am I wrong here?
100 years.
Like, if you were to like spread it out, right? Like, not look at any 1, 3, 4, 5 year period.
Yeah.
So what people do, here's what people do. I see this all the time. The stock market averages 10% a year returns over 100 years. The real estate market only averages 6 or 7%, whatever. I don't know the actual numbers. But that's just appreciation.
Yeah, they're cherry picking.
They're cherry picking appreciation. Yeah. They're not factoring in leverage, right? You have 5-to-1 leverage. So even if it only appreciates 6%, you actually appreciated 30% on your equity.
Yeah. On the actual money that you're putting in as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Leverage returns. They don't factor in principal pay down. That's paid for by your tenants. And they don't factor in the fact that you could actually pull your money out with a refinance after however many years and basically end up with an infinite return and then scale that portfolio. So it manipulates the middle class and the poor people to believe that safe investment is safer than real estate. And it's wrong. It's wrong. And it's bad advice. Yet people will come out and defend it. I hear it all the time. I know you were playing devil's advocate last week, kind of saying, okay, I can see why that advice sells. But my belief is that somebody like Dave Ramsey, that's his brand. That's who he appeals to.
I don't know. I don't even know what he does. Like,
he's an older guy. He's like, probably in his 60s or so. I bet you he owns a lot of real estate, yet he doesn't come out and preach real estate because it wouldn't sell.
Yeah. So
it wouldn't sell.
The problem is when you just come out with the argument that you got, the guy that's presenting that argument to you,
it wasn't just one person. I got a few people making that comment.
Okay, so whoever the fuck,
yeah.
whoever's saying that shit back to you, we're literally going after the comment that guy made, right? Dave Ramsey, whatever his name is. We're going after his comment as a general comment, which is complete bullshit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if that's your target market. It doesn't matter if, that's not who he's trying to attract. It doesn't mean we're taking it out of context. It doesn't fucking matter. The fact of the matter is when you say something, it should be good advice.
Mm-hmm. And that comment does portray his overall general investment philosophy, which is don't take on debt, pay down your mortgage, and invest in a nice retirement account.
And I guess I shouldn't say it's bad advice. You shouldn't come out.
It's bad advice.
Okay, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
It's good bad advice.
Here's the thing. Let's be subjective here. At the end of the day, what's bad advice to us could be good advice to someone else. No. Okay, fine. Fuck, no, Scott. Fuck.
There is.
All I'm saying is some people might gravitate towards that idea, which is the argument, okay? From our perspective, which, we're highly motivated to be successful and we're also, savvy with our money. We understand how to make money from money. At the end of the day, it's the fucking worst advice you could possibly take. Like it really is. It's the fucking worst shit.
I'm
saying. Exactly. So that's my perspective.
Yeah. And again, man, that advice, right? That's going to keep people trapped.
100%.
It's going to keep you from ever buying real estate because that advice tells you subconsciously that real estate's a less safe investment than a mutual fund or paying down your own mortgage. And that's wrong. It's wrong. It's bad. So there's a scale of bad advice, right? If you go from using your credit cards to pay everything and leveraging your house to buy a boat, and then versus paying down your mortgage and saving, on that sliding scale, that's pretty good advice. Mm-hmm. But it's still on the bad scale. You need to jump over to the other scale of good advice to actually start making progress. Yeah, and I'm going to draw my line there, and I will not recommend bad advice because it will keep you trapped in the middle class forever. Yeah, you'll work for 35 years, retire, and have a decent life.
So what if that's your goal?
It's people's goal because they don't know of the other side. In my opinion, they don't know that.
You're coming from hold on a minute.
I'm coming from the perspective of this was me.
Yeah,
this was me.
I think that's what's really polarizing about this is because I never came from that side.
You might not see
I don't see it, right?
I lived it for 33 years, literally trying to save my way to financial freedom, and you can't.
Yeah.
Right? Making my coffee at home.
Yeah.
Saving 20% of my my pay every week, paying down my mortgage $400 bi-weekly extra on top of the mortgage. Meanwhile, the inflation is just so quick. Housing prices are jumping so quickly that I'm getting buried, right? And then all of a sudden I find myself renting because I'm in an expensive city and can't afford to buy, and I'm falling further behind, but I didn't know it, right? So I was following bad advice. Yes, you're going to live an average life. Like you're going to live an average financial life. You can have a good life there, middle class. You can have your house paid off, nice savings account, 1 or 2 trips a year, maybe a little Florida timeshare, but you're not financially free. You won't ever be. And what I'm saying is financial freedom isn't that hard or that risky. You could buy 1 rental property per year for your working life, right? Say 10 or 20 years. You can end up with a portfolio of 10 or 20 rental properties pretty easily and be like way further ahead with, I think, less risk than some of these other lower returns. Yeah. So picking up where we left off, it's just, it's actually when you have higher returns like that are in a safe asset class like real estate, those higher returns actually give you a higher buffer for error, right? Like when you're making 20% annual ROI versus 3, 4, 5%, it gives you a buffer against inflation. It gives you a buffer against the crash. Because if you're making 5 to 10% appreciation a year for 5 years and then it crashes down 20%, well, you're still up 80%. You know what I'm saying? So real estate is a safer investment class. It has higher returns and it will get you further ahead because of leverage and the ability to scale. Yet people are out here preaching other messages, and I'm gonna argue against it until I die.
Yeah. So what happens if one of the arguments is, well, I don't want to work. I don't want to work for it.
In terms of like buying real estate?
Yeah. We're buying it, managing it, doing anything to it. Yeah. What if that's the argument?
It's bad logic because you go to work 40 hours a week. for what's really, generally not that much money for how much work you're putting in. The amount of money you make by owning a real estate property in proportion to the amount of work you actually have to put into it, especially if you get a property manager, it's like basically zero, like is infinitely higher for the amount of time you have to put in. Like your hourly wage of owning a rental property over 20 years is like way higher than your wage going there. So it's just bad logic. And it's basically, it ends up being an excuse for mediocre returns.
Yeah. So basically the verdict of Dave Ramsey is you're shit is basically the verdict. Your advice is shit. And anybody that wants to refute what we're saying here, their logic is shit. That's basically what we're saying.
That's what you're saying.
Well, that's what you're saying.
I'm taking a stand against it. There's a better way, and
we'll die on that fucking hill all day long.
100%.
Yeah.